of his dad. He's like, I don't want to wear it because it's not comfortable, and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to sing this sad song and then I'm going to run away. Something to pay attention to is that if you are a misfit but you don't want to feel like one, you'll run away. If you are a misfit but you don't want to feel like one, you're going to run away. You're going to try to find something different. And here's the next bit of a lesson I want to show you. It's that misfits need other misfits. Watch this.
But I don't need anybody. I'm independent.
Yeah? Me too. I'm whatever you said. Independent.
Hey, what do you say we both be independent together, huh?
You wouldn't mind my red nose?
Not if you don't mind me being a dentist.
It's a deal.
Let's be independent together. There's something about that just strikes me as funny. But did any of you notice that ball falling off the Christmas tree? What's that all about? What's up with, well, he was hiding in the snow because he escaped earlier, and I don't know why he was hiding in the snow either. So I don't get that one. But then I'm wondering, like, what's the deal with the ball pop? I've watched that, and there's this weird sound that happens, this crackly sound. The ball pops off the tree. It's like, why is that? Well, I figured it out this last night, in fact. I was making these clips, and it came to me like a light bulb. I suddenly understand what the animators were trying to do. But since it's claymation, you might have missed it. So I'm going to play it for you again in slow motion. Okay? Because claymation, sometimes a lot happens that you're just not aware of. So I'm going to play this for you again in slow motion. Watch very carefully.
Independent.
Here it is. Right there. Did you see it? Did you see it? Okay. Here's he's hugging Rudolph. The whole point of the balls falling off the tree is that Hermie needs Rudolph. He can't do this on his own. A ball falls off a tree, and he freaks out, and his first reaction is to hug someone. This is a commentary on any misfit who would try to go through life alone. Misfits need misfits. Misfits need other misfits. Okay, so all that to say that if you are a misfit, but you don't want to feel like one, you're going to run away. And that's the wrong direction to go. You need other misfits. And here's one last clip I want to show you for this before we get to this blank that
now,
we can fill in.
Now, you can bet old Donner felt pretty bad about the way he had treated Rudolph. And he knew that the only thing to do was to go out and look for his little buck. Mrs. Donner wanted to go along, naturally. But Donner said, "No. This is man's work." And no sooner did the man of the house leave when Mrs. Donner and Clarice decided to set out on their own. Now, they were really taking their chances.
Now, I'm not going to make any comment about the sexism going on there. But, here's the point for that one. If you're a misfit and you don't want to feel like a misfit, you're going to run away. But that means if you're a misfit and you don't want to accept being a misfit, you're going to cause all those people who would accept you to have to chase you. See, these guys run away, and the people who love them go out and chase them down, and they end up in danger for themselves. When we reject our misfit status, the one who would accept us needs to chase us down. Now, something else from this story that I had a video clip set up for, but we're going to have to skip it in the interest of time, is Santa. When Santa comes up to Rudolph and he finds that Rudolph has a nose that's glowing, Santa is just as petty as everybody else. He says, "I hope that nose changes if he ever wants to be a reindeer pulling my sleigh." And then when Rudolph is playing with all his friends in the reindeer games and the thing pops off his nose and his nose lights up and everybody freaks out, Santa begins to chew out Donner, his dad. And he says, "Donner, how could you?" Basically like, it's your fault that you allowed this guy out of your house to be in front of all this. So Santa's not a good role model either. Don't go there on this particular movie. This movie is not going to put Santa as a good role model for you. So I'm just going to skip this one. And there we go. Because what I want to do is I want to get to the snapshots from the Bible. See, what we've come so far is we've recognized that from this whole misfit layer of meaning in the movie, we understand that maybe you feel like a misfit and you've run away, or maybe you've felt like a misfit and you've rejected that feeling and you want to feel accepted or whatever. I want to show you some snapshots from the Bible. What does the Bible have to say about misfits? Okay, so we're going to be in the book of Luke. I'm putting all the words on the screen for us today, just in the interest of getting a lot of passages through. But here it is, Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. Now, the first thing you have to recognize is that Joseph and Mary are misfits. See, every Israelite is a misfit. Caesar Augustus issues a decree, and every single Jewish person has to snap to attention and follow what he says. They're in their own land, and yet they have to do what the Roman guy tells them to do. They're misfits in their own land. And then Joseph, because he's originally from the town, from the line of David, King David, he has to go from Nazareth in the north all the way down to Bethlehem in the south. He's not even at home. He's a misfit where he is. And the story even gets worse, as you're familiar with. Once they find the Bethlehem town, now they have to find a place to stay. Check this out. While they were there in Bethlehem, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. Quick translation note for you. The King James Version of the Bible translated this inn, and many modern translations followed that. Instead of guest room, they translated it inn. There was no room for them in the inn. And so we've got this story, that we kind of have in our minds of Mary and Joseph coming into Bethlehem, and they're knocking on all the hotel doors, and all the hotels are filled up. There's no vacancy. And then this one hotel guy says, oh, by the way, I have a stable out back. You can go back there and be with all the animals. And then you've got the nativity scene with the cute little stable and everybody's huddled around there. That's not the way it was, okay? This is a mistranslation of a Greek word. And the Greek word behind this is not inn, it's generic place to stay. Now, there is a Greek word for inn, and it's not being used here. And it's a good thing it isn't being used here, because Joseph and Mary and no self-respecting Jew would ever have knocked on the door of an inn back then, because inns were bad places. Inns are where the real lowlives hung out. Inns are places where there were robberies and nasty stuff. You just don't want to even go there. What's happening here is they're coming to Bethlehem, and there are a lot of other people who are coming to Bethlehem, and so the people who are in Bethlehem have to be hospitable, because Jewish society does this. They show hospitality even to strangers. And so all their relatives from years and years and years ago, or whatever, some ancestry kind of translation down the family tree, and this person's like my 29th cousin or whatever, they let me stay there, and we're all housed together in the same place. But in the houses they had, the upstairs was where the humans lived, and the downstairs was where the animals lived, because the animals produced body heat, which went up and kept the people up here warm. So especially in the winter, all the good people would be up top, and all the lowly people would be down below with the animals, and there was no guest room available. So they were with the mass of lowlives and animals down below. And she gives birth, and the baby gets laid in a manger, a feeding trough. And here's the deal. Of all the people in Bethlehem who were already misfits, Joseph and Mary weren't even good enough to be on the upper floor. They were misfits. And of all the people on the lower floor, Joseph and Mary had to suffer through the birth process, and then the baby is put in the manger. And here's the deal. From birth, Jesus was a misfit. From birth, he didn't fit in. You and I would have looked at this story and we would have said, there's nothing remarkable about this at all. Okay, it's a baby being born inside a house, and the house is crowded, there's no room. It's just another one of the stories of a whole bunch of misfits. There's nothing remarkable about it at all. You and I, if we had been there, we would have complained, but we wouldn't have written books about it. Unless 2 hours later happened. A few hours later, something happens, and in fact, Luke records it in the very next verse. We begin to pick up the story there in verse 8, that initially it looked unremarkable until we come to verse 8, and here it is. There were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. Now, hang on here. Shepherds? They weren't even inside. They're misfits among the misfits. In fact, people in that day saw the shepherds as way low on the list. The shepherds were unclean. They lived with sheep. They smelled like sheep. There are no bathrooms outdoors over there. You know what I'm saying? There are no showers. These people are dirty, messy. You don't want to hang out with them. And on top of it all, because of what they do and because of the things they have to clean up and the things they have to touch, they are not ceremonially clean, meaning they can't go to the temple and worship God with anybody else. They are misfits on every level. And angels talk to them. The wise men have to figure out a star for themselves. Everybody else has to wait around for Jesus to get older, but shepherds get angels. And the angels say to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for," underline the word, all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the promised one, the Lord. A Savior has been born to the shepherds. The angel says, I'm bringing you good news, which is for every human being on the planet. This Savior is born to you. Now that's crazy. Because if I were one of those shepherds, A, the angel would have freaked me out. B, no Savior is ever born to come to people like me. I'm the outcast. I'm the misfit who chose to be independent, who left the town to live with